Welcome back to the Sovereign Ratio. Today we're going to take a look at market psychology cycles and how it affects the current Bitcoin situation and crypto market in general. Before we get started, if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, and leave me a comment below. Okay, this is the market psychology chart that's been around for a very long time, and essentially what it represents is the psychological levels that people have at various points in any sort of asset cycle, which all are varying time lengths, but in this particular instance, we're discussing Bitcoin and crypto, so we're talking 4-year cycle, at least for now, unless something changes in the future. Basically, price runs up in 4-year cycles along with the halving. So it's important right now with all the recent run-ups that we've had in both Bitcoin and other assets to kind of judge where we are in the cycle, because we're getting very close to the point where people are going to start making exponential gains. I personally believe in the next 6 months, people are going to be looking at their accounts at all-time highs or close to it, or just in general printing a lot of money in their crypto wallets. That being said, looking at the chart right now, I just want to be very clear. I believe we're in a disbelief stage. I have the blue arrow on the right-hand side of the screen, as you can see, that is kind of stuck in the middle between two run-ups. So that first run-up on the left, I believe, was the one that we had up to like 30K. And then the second one that we're having right now is kind of in the middle with the ultimate run-up, probably somewhere between 42 and 48,000. The 0.5 Fibonacci retracement is at the 42,000 level. The 618 is at the 48,000 level. And in every other cycle, Bitcoin has either breached the 618 or gotten very close to it. So I do believe we're just kind of in that little middle phase there between the two peaks up to disbelief. And then disbelief then translates over to the left side of that psychology chart, where you can see another arrow and a circle, the circle being essentially what is the last chance to purchase before the exponential gains start. This is all speculation, of course. It's just a guide. It's not necessarily going to replicate this chart exactly. The disbelief part of the market cycle is essentially after everybody has capitulated and the market has seen a bottom, people are not believing the rally that's occurring. And generally that leads to a sell-off because people don't think the rally is actually happening, which in turn actually causes the first final dump before the hope phase. And then we have hope phase and then a little smaller dump after that. And then it goes into optimism, which is where retail investors start thinking about getting back in, but smart money is already fully in and has been fully in for quite a while. And that's really when the quick exponential moves start happening. And then we go into belief, thrill, and euphoria. And euphoria is essentially the point where the very last retail investor is hearing about Bitcoin going to the moon, and they finally go, well, I guess I was wrong. It's time to get in. And then people like us, smart money, we sell, and guess who buys it? It's the people that just came into the market that have no idea what they're doing and just bought on a whim. And that's essentially how the market cycle goes. From there, it's just a psychological fall for probably, in the crypto cycle, it's 365 days, but in other markets, it's probably a lot longer than that. But then you go through complacency, anxiety, denial, panic, capitulation. And if you line up the Bitcoin chart through cycles, you'll see that this cycle, this market psychology cycle, actually looks incredibly close to everything that happened after the 2017 bull run. Everything subsequent to that matches almost exactly to this chart right here. Now, the previous bull run is not quite as close, but it is still representative of what's shown here. And we'll look at that on the chart here momentarily. So here I've got the Bitstamp data for Bitcoin on the 1-week time frame, and everything after 2017 is kind of what I've isolated here. So if we take a look at it, clearly this is the euphoria part in December of 2017. Right after that, there was a complacency bounce. Right after that, there was an anxiety bounce. Right after that, there was a denial bounce. And right after that, there was capitulation, which is exactly what happened down here. This one did have an extra panic on the market psychology chart, which we really didn't see unless you want to consider this little move right here at the bottom, the panic movement. But after that, it was completely flat, which is representative of everything after anger. And then we went up into the depression bounce here, which I would actually say is in this area or this area. And then the disbelief, which looks almost identical to the market psychology chart. You can see it's got that zigzag descending triangle type of pattern. It kind of looks like a flag. That's right here. And then after that, right here, we start back over where we would be on the left-hand side, which is the drop down to this circle here. And then ultimately after that, it's just right back up. You've got your hope bounce. Then you've got everything that comes after that. And it lines up very, very well. And there's the all-time high, which actually was over here, and the completion of that cycle. Now, I actually had to zoom out on the chart quite a bit because the bull run after the 2013 one was so astronomical that I can't even zoom out on the chart enough to where any of this is legible or makes sense. So just know that the euphoria phase is way up there. This was a massive money printing event for anybody that was in the market at that time. It's a little ridiculous, actually, when you go back and think about it and look at it. But congratulations for those that were there. I was not at the time. So anyway, we'll look at this 2013. Again, we've got euphoria, we've got a complacency bounce. You could probably call this one a denial, and then move down. You've got panic. Then more downside here. This, I don't think this really happened right here unless you consider it to be one of these little areas like here, and then all the way down to anger, and then flat right here, and then back up to a depression, back up to disbelief, and then back up to hope. And then after hope, it's just all systems go. And it's really, there's not a whole lot of variance, especially because the bottom almost always occurs 365 days after the top. In the previous cycle, it actually was exactly 365 days from the top to the bottom. And in the cycle prior to that, it was exactly 365 days from the top to the bottom. Now, in the one before that, it was actually a little extended, 413 days, but buying at the 365 day mark would have still been great for the next run up. So typically that's the path that Bitcoin and crypto likes to follow. And this is absolutely no exception, what we're looking at right here. And also the bottom to the subsequent top is almost always 1,065 days or 151 bars. And we fully expect that to happen again. Of course, nothing's ever going to be exactly, it just kind of rhymes. But that date is somewhere around September, October 2025. And I would expect that's when people need to look at taking profits because we've done this again. So hopefully not in two peaks, or maybe in two peaks, because that was a great money making opportunity having two peaks like that. So we'll see what happens. But I fully anticipate that we are in the disbelief stage right now, and I really do believe that we have another run up before all is said and done for the final drop, which probably will not eclipse this. I'm sure it'll just be a drop down either to 32 or 26 or 22 at the worst, probably, unless there's a black swan event. But generally, like I said, on the weekly chart, Bitcoin touches the 382, which is this candle here. It then runs up to the 0.5, usually in the next candle after that, but in one previous time it did take an additional candle to get to the 0.5. So I'm thinking by the end of this week, which is tomorrow, we should be seeing something up to the 0.5. And then after that, maybe the golden pocket. I would imagine that it's a lot of confluence and a lot of people looking at this, so maybe it doesn't quite get to the golden pocket, because if you look at the golden pocket, it's crazy how it lines up with this right here. This first or the second major drop back here in March of 2022, the Fibonacci lines up perfectly with that. And also there's a trend line that goes from the previous cycle all the way through. And whenever you touch that, it actually is right at the 48K mark. So there's a lot of confluence there. Maybe this particular instance of disbelief is different, and maybe it only runs up to the 0.5 for whatever reason. I'm not sure, but we do have that here at 42K, which consequently is kind of like the top of this cup right here, right? So we've got a level here, we've got a level here. Which one we go to, I don't know. Maybe we don't. Maybe it's just completely different and Bitcoin dumps. I have no idea. But the historical data that we have says that Bitcoin should go to 42, if not 45 to 48K in the next couple weeks, honestly. And one final thing, using Cardano as an example, I have the same 1 week chart pulled up for Bitcoin and Cardano. So the cursor will line up both on the left and the right. I know my picture's in the way on Bitcoin, but we can still see what I'm talking about. When Bitcoin hit the top of its disbelief phase in June 2019, you can see that Cardano did as well. However, there is one big difference, that Bitcoin from there to there dropped 71%. Now, I will say that was a black swan event down to the flu dump, and what Bitcoin was originally intending to do most likely was drop down to this point, which is a 53% drop. Now, Cardano, on the other hand, we can make the chart bigger, get a measurement tool. Cardano ultimately went down 84% to the flu dump and to what it's probably should have been at the same point where Bitcoin was. Cardano went down 75%. So altcoins will fall significantly more than Bitcoin. In this particular instance, Bitcoin fell around 50%. In another cycle, it fell around 40% after disbelief. So maybe this time it only falls 30%. I don't really know, but we can also take a look at that by going back to the 1 week chart real quick. And we can just kind of have fun with the numbers, right? So I can just get a measurement tool, and let's say Bitcoin goes to 48K. and there's a 30 to 40% drop. 30% drop from that level is around 33K. A 40% drop from that level is right around 28K, and a 50% drop from that level is right around 24K. If Bitcoin doesn't quite make it there, let's say it just goes to the 0.5. From the 0.5, 30% drop is right at 29K. A 40% drop is right around 25K. 50% drop right around 21K. Which actually those levels make more sense for what I was planning on. So maybe Bitcoin only does run up to the 0.5 this time. I don't really know. We'll have to monitor very closely in the next couple weeks and see what it does. But those are just things that I'm looking at and what I'm trying to plan for the next 2 to 3 months, especially getting in that last dip right before the next hope phase. So hopefully this gave you some insight if you weren't already familiar with the psychology of a market cycle. And if you have a particular opinion on what you think Bitcoin's going to do, please feel free to drop it in the comments below. Let me know. Let me know if you learned anything from this. If you like the content, you hate the content, just let me know. Drop a like, comment, dislike it if you want to. I would prefer you like it, but either way, it still counts in the algorithm. But thanks for coming by. We'll see you in the next video, and safe trading.